Hello everyone, and welcome to our next video. So in the previous video we continued with adding the invalid input tests, and now I think we are at a very good stage where we are testing most of the functionality expected from the invalid input custom error. So I would like to start with a bit of refactoring. In the signup, you may have noticed, so in the signup route, you may have noticed that we have the errors that are a result of so that they are the output of the validation result function, and now we are passing these errors to our invalid input. But then we have also some additional validation going on in these two if blocks, and if this validation fails, we are simply returning a res.send status of 422. So I want to change this a little bit, and I would like to put this to the top here. And it's a simple matter of refactoring. And instead of returning the res.send status, I would like to expand on my errors variable to add additional information about this error in the same format as our validation error that previously came from the result here. So to begin with this, I actually need to transform this into an array, right? So this has to be to an array, and then here I can pass the errors. And here I would say the if errors.length is greater than 0, then I would throw a new invalid input errors. And if this test passes, which is very unlikely to happen except if the normalized email implementation becomes buggy, then I want to add a new element to my array. So errors.push, and I'm going to push the same, virtually the same as before. So the same shape as our validation result gives us. So the location of this is going to happen in the body. The value for this is going to be rec.body.email. The param for this is email. And the message that I want to set is that email is not normalized. And then I don't want to return anymore, because now if this has an empty result, then the array is going to be an empty array. However, if this test or this test they turn out to be true, then this errors array will receive its first or its second element. So I don't need to worry about this errors.length not being true in case any of these if statements returns true. So here I will also add a similar structure. This is going to be the rec.body.password, and the param is going to be the password param. And here I will write something like password contains invalid characters, something like this. Let me start our tests. And everything is still passing because we are just doing a couple of refactoring. Now here I was thinking about how can we better handle this final part here of our signup route. So we have just a res.send status of 422, but I think that we can improve this. And here, in fact, I think that we can throw a new error. And this is going to be not a normal error, it's going to be a duplicated user. Something like this, right? This is the idea that I have. So this means that I need to declare this duplicated user, right? And this means that my tests will probably fail as well, because in some cases I will simply throw this new duplicated user exactly. So the test run failed, so I need to declare, I need to create this duplicated user error, and this is within my errors here. So let's create a new one, duplicated user.ts, and in the types in the test we'll also create a new file, duplicated user input.test.ts. And let's start implementing the errors that we want our duplicated user to deal with. Good. So I think that with this we can start writing it here. Let's maybe let's maybe change a little bit. I was thinking that I would prefer to wrap the invalid input with a describe, but it's kind of self-descriptive that it's testing the invalid input custom error because it's an invalid input dash test, or sorry, invalid dash input dot test, right? So maybe I can just get rid of this, and the duplicated user dot test dot ts, I will directly start using the it at its most basic level. So now here I need to have an arrow function, and this arrow function, well, what I would like to have for the duplicated user is it should have a status code of 422 as well. So here I can create a duplicated user error, and this is going to be equal to new duplicated user, right? And then here I have the problem that I cannot really, this is not going to compile. I don't have a class duplicated user. So let's come to the duplicated user file, and here we will export as a default our class duplicated user, which extends our base custom error. And because it extends our base custom error, I need to create a status code, and it's going to be 422. I need to declare a constructor, and here I need to have that little thing object.setPrototype of this with duplicated user.prototype. Here I will have a message for my super call, but this again is not necessary, so the user is already in the database, right? The email maybe. Or even, let's be more precise, instead of duplicated user, let's raise a duplicated email error. And this is a very clear error that tells me, okay, we shouldn't have duplicated emails in the database. So this I'll just rename a little bit to duplicated email, and this I'll also rename to duplicated email. Maybe we will change this in the future. I'm not very satisfied with the naming, but let's not spend too much time here. It should be fine to change it in the future. So here I still need to implement the get status code, and this is going to return this .status code, and I also need to implement the serialize error output, which is going to return the serialized error output here. And I cannot return undefined, right? So this is going to complain. For the moment, I'll leave it as it is. So at least my test now should be able to import a duplicated email. And let's see what is going up. By the way, I think I need to sign up as well. I need to change this, right? Duplicated email. Oops. Import statement, but I don't want to import it directly from the file. So let's export this. Export default as duplicated email from ./duplicated email. And I want to use this instead of the actual file. So invalid input duplicated email here, and in the duplicated email I would like to import from /index, and that's going to be a named import. So let me save everything, and let's see how the whole thing is going to behave. So I'm still failing because it cannot return undefined, of course, for the serialize. So for the serialize error output, it cannot return undefined. So I'm just going to return an object which is going to have errors, and here I'm going to have an array, and as the first one I'm going to have a message, and I will simply say the email is already in the database. And let's store this as our protected error message, and it's going to be like this. And I'm even thinking that this can be a member of our abstract class here, protected abstract error message. Let's call it default error message. And it's going to be a string. Because now then this is going to complain. I will simply change this to default error message, and I'll also change our invalid input to have a default error message here. This complaint, so I'll just write this here, protected default error message, and here I'll just return this.default error message. So let's see how this is behaving now. And I think that now the test should start to pass. Finally. So let's continue here. I would expect my duplicated user, actually this is duplicated email, so I'm just do a little bit of refactoring. Duplicated email, oops, email. I would expect this dot get status code dot to equal 42. And this should still pass, there's no problem here. Good. And the second one, the second test that I want to implement is the same one that I have for the invalid input. So if I come down here, where is it? Here. Should return the errors in the serialized format. Right? This is the same test. Should return the errors in the serialized format. And here I will have the same. So I'll create a new error. And after I create the new error, I will call the serialized error output, and it's going to be the duplicated email error dot serialize error output. And here I would say expect serialized error output dot errors dot to have length of 1, and I would expect my serialized error output dot errors, the first one, dot message dot to equal, and here I will simply take the message that we wrote here. The email is already in the database, right? The email is already in the database. So this should still pass, and I don't see any reason for us to have any more complex example or any more complex structure here. Let's see what this is going to. Everything should be working fine. And it's interesting that if I change a message here, for example, if I change the message, then the tests will fail, and this is going to highlight something to me, right? It's just, okay, are you sure that you want to change the message just because the tests are going to fail? Then we are just aware of the changes that we are doing. I don't see any problem with this, and I like this approach of having a more structured implementation of this test, so that we are aware of the things that we are actually changing, right? So, okay, I think that this is enough for this video. We are already at around 15 minutes and we have reached a milestone here. So I would like to stop for the moment, and in the next video we will come back and we will implement a little bit, we'll change a little bit the sign up implementation, because here I'm simply return the email to the user, but I want to migrate this to actually something that will help us in the future when we start communicating via messages within our microservices. So at the moment I will stop this, and I will, as always, run the static analysis commands, so the prettier and the linting command. Let's see if there is anything wrong with the linting. Not really, so I will just add everything, and I will commit. And what we did now was to implement the duplicated email error, custom error, right? Let's call it like this, custom error. Give it a couple of seconds. All the tests should pass. I'll push the changes, share the link to the commit in the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, thank you for your time, and bye-bye.